creating what's called a proof of concept. And what a proof of concept does is it explains the whole series, who the character is, the world that the character lives in, and then that way we can show it to potential investors and then raise money to do the full-fledged pilot. Now there's a positive that she'd be a great character base a series on. And we all know the explosion of series on streaming services nowadays. So I knew that she would be a great example, a great sample that could be turned into a series. It's based on her life actually, and exaggerated a bit for television, make it even more elaborate. And so what we did was we started working on the ideas for the script, and we came up with a number of different concepts. And so we decided on one, and she wrote the script, and it came out really well. This was a short version. So what we're doing is we're creating what's called a proof of concept. And what a proof of concept does is it explains the whole series, who the character is, the world that the character lives in, and then that way we can show it to potential investors and then raise money to do the full-fledged pilot. Now there's a festival organization called Series Fest, and the great thing about Series Fest is that it focuses just on series. And the way I found out about it must have been, wow, almost 10 years now. So I'm not exactly sure when Series Fest started. It's got to be closing in on its 15th year. And so it's been a really big success, and they've branched off into a lot of areas. A lot of people in the business with connections that can greenlight pilots and series attend it to look for new material. So my wife's nephew was at that time a brand new actor, and he had just finished a great acting program in New York City called the Actors Workshop. I think that's what it's called, the Workshop. And what it is, it's a program, a method program, and it's been around for a really long time. Some of the best actors have went through that program. And so he had asked me what I would recommend if he wanted to get into acting. So I told him that. I told him that was a program that I wish years ago I had got involved with. But he went, he did what he had to do to get the money because it's very expensive. And he got the money, he went through the whole program, did very, very well, got an agent. His agent was a really good agent in New York City. And he started, hello, good morning. And he started doing projects in New York. I think one of the first things he did was a kind of a high-level off-Broadway play. And then after he did that play, hello, good morning. And after he did that play, he started getting actually work on television. I think one of the first series he was on was the last season of Homeland. And I was so jealous because I love that show. And I love Carrie, the character. And so he was on that show. And I think he was on 2 episodes of that show. And it was really a great experience for him. And it propelled him into other work. So just from taking that class, it wasn't just a class, just from taking that program at the Actors Workshop, he was able to start his career off on the right foot. So that's what I talk about a lot. I decided to jump on here live because I'm noticing from my analytics that a lot of my subscribers and a lot of the people that watch my videos focus a lot on the content I create about acting and being a new actor and getting into the acting business. So I decided that's where I'm going to start narrowing my content. I'm going to still do the other stuff that I talk about, acting, directing, and editing, and just general filmmaking. Hello. And so what I'm going to do though is start creating more content for new actors. I have some ideas. Actually, as soon as I finish with this live event with you guys, I'm going to polish my first episode focusing on actors and some of the steps that you need to take to propel yourself into a career in acting. It's going to kind of be like an online class for actors. And what I'm going to do too is I'm going to recruit actors from my subscribers to participate in the program. And but first of all, I'm going to start just with the steps, the things you need to do, the things you would do if you were in a traditional acting program at a college. At the very basics, though, the very basics. This is not geared towards anyone who's already acting, who's already studied. I want to work with people who have thought about it, who always said, I'd like to give acting a try. How do I get started? I always recommend reading books and stuff at the beginning, which I still recommend, which I will recommend in all the classes that I'm going to teach here. But I'm going to teach short little focused classes on the elements that you need as a person just starting out. So that's what I'm going to focus on here. And I hope you guys start watching it and following again. Continue to follow my channel and continue to subscribe. And I like talking about this, obviously, because I jump on here all the time talking about it. But again, I see that a lot of people are really following my vertical shorts when I talk about acting, and also people are following that back to my 16 by 9 full-length content talking about acting and how to get started and how to make it in this business. Because there's a lot of things you have to do at the very beginning. I remember when I first started out, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I got an agent. Luckily, I got an agent because I met an actor on the set of something I was working on. And the agent took me on. And I remember getting my first call for an audition. And they said, we're going to send you, you can come pick up the sides. And this was in the days before we even had email. So they told me I had to physically come pick up the sides. And I said, what are the sides? I was so new I didn't even know what sides were. But sides are the pages of the script that you're going to audition with. So that's the basic kind of stuff that I'm going to teach, because that's the stuff you really need to know when you're just starting out. And like I always say in all my videos, you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm going to try to teach you guys in these free lessons, not charging anything, just creating content for my channel and to give information out to you guys who are kind enough to watch it and come to my channel and subscribe. I'm going to give out the basic information for anyone who wants to start off as an actor, because there's a lot of basics that you need to know. And a lot of these basics, unfortunately, you don't even learn in college. If you're in a program, if you're in a college program, they teach you all the traditional basics. I'm going to cover some of those, but I'm going to teach you all the real world basics that you need to know about showing up on the set, being prepared, having pictures and resumes that represent what you really look like, being confident, how to be confident. I'm going to teach you about online auditions, because that's a big thing now. Doing your self-tapes. So you can be able to do them yourself. You won't have to actually go out and pay someone to do it. There's basic skills that you need to have so that people can hear you clearly. They can see you clearly. Like even right now, I'm doing this. I'm away from my home right now, but I didn't bring my soft light to hit my face a little. So I should be a little bit brighter. Those are the kind of things I'm going to teach you guys. Because when you're doing your self-tape, you want them to be able to hear you clearly and see you clearly. You won't have any impediment in them seeing who you are and seeing how you deliver your lines, because that's going to make them, as far as the casting directors go, send you off to the next person who wants to look at you, like the producer or the primary casting director or the director. So you want to look good. You want to present yourself. You want them to be able to hear you, see you, and see the small emotions that you're making. Because if they can't see your eyes, or they can't hear you well, then that's what they're thinking about. They no longer are thinking about whether you're the right character or whether you're doing a good performance or not. They're wondering why I can't hear him, why I can't see him. They're fiddling with their phone trying to turn up the volume because they can't hear what you're saying. So I want to go over all those details with you and help you create the best content possible to push you forward. Because if this is something that you want, you need to know the basics. That's what I always say. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off, and then later I'll give you an update to the content that I've created for my first class focusing on acting that I will be putting up sometime this week. All right, I'll see you soon. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for stopping by. I want to do a quick little recap. I'm just about to come up on the last two scenes of this large project I'm editing for an acting teacher that I cut all of his content for his students. So what happens is his students they go through the class, they take all their lessons, and then at the end of the class, a lot of them participate in a large scene. Well, not a large scene, a large, almost as long as a feature sometimes. And it's scenes of actors visiting the therapist. So what happens is the students play the patients, and one of the acting students plays the therapist, and so they all do scenes, and I edit them together to make them look best as possible. So a lot of them do a good job, some struggle, so it's a variation of different scenes. So I'm about to finish the last couple of scenes. I ran into a little bit of a problem because it appears that some of the dialogue of the therapist might not have been included. They might have skipped some lines. So then that forces me to try to think of a way to creatively start the scene. So what I'm probably going to do is start the scene later into the content. So that's just a little editing note that I have to deal with. So, but overall, it's coming along well. It's a long process. Sometimes I show you guys a little bit of the process. I might show you a little bit after this. It's not exciting. It's not an action adventure or anything like that. It's just dialogue driven. And these are actors who are just starting out in the business. So they use these scenes to attract potential agents, potential producers or casting people for small projects, student films, independent films. The school is based in New Jersey, and he does a good job. The teacher who runs the program, he does a great job working with the students, because I can see and hear the behind the scenes as he encourages them, and he knows some of them well, so he knows what what their weaknesses are, and tries to help them, prompt them up so they can give the best performance as possible. So I'll let you take a little bit of look at what I'm editing, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how it goes. And it's just that same process, scene after scene, looking at what the actor does and how he delivers the lines. And if he fumbles, I have to cut that out. So that's the whole process. You just go scene by scene by scene by scene. I'll be back with you later and give you a little update. Hi, my name is James Adam Tucker. For over 35 years, I've been an actor, director, and editor right here in Hollywood. Today's topic is something that's near and dear to my heart. I work with a lot of actors who aren't in their 20s. They aren't teens. They aren't child actors. They're actors over 40. And they all have that same question. Is it possible to start an acting career if I'm over 40? And the quick answer is yes. But there's a lot of things that you need to do that's different than if you had started when you were younger, in your 20s, in college, maybe even in high school. I started my acting career in college, and there was a lot I needed to learn when I first started. So what I love to do with older actors is share that experience that I've gained over the years on how to really enter this industry. Like I said, it's different starting at an older age. Sometimes I think, and I actually believe, that older actors bring more to roles than younger actors can because they have that life experience. I know a lot of actors who focus in on roles as lawyers, doctors, police officers, teachers. And the trick is, a lot of them really had those careers. I worked with an actress who had been a career-long teacher. She started out, obviously went to college, got a teaching degree and credentials and all that kind of stuff. And she started teaching in lower grades. I think it was kindergarten, she said. I'm trying to remember, it was kindergarten or it was middle school. Her name was Joyce. And so we were casting a project. It was a comedy horror movie. Goes back a few years. And we were looking for an actress in her 60s. So Joyce and a number of other actresses had submitted their resumes and stuff. And we saw a lot of people. And most of the older people were new. I always have the saying that when you're older and you're an actor, either there's two paths. Either you're extremely successful or you continue that struggle and you just won't give up. Because most people, when they start their acting career and they're young, you'll make it normally maybe to the end of your 30s, and then you'll start looking around, hey, I better do something else. That actually happened to me also. But I was one of the ones who stayed on the path. I didn't become a recognizable actor, but I'm a character actor. And I've been working constantly for, like I said, on and off 35 years. And I continue to do it because it's something that I really love. My wife has a saying that if you love to act, don't just sit around and wait for someone to hire you to be in an A film. Act. There's a lot of places to act. So even what I do sometimes is, and this is one of the tips that I share with older actors, I do a lot of student films. When I have some downtime, I'll find some students who are doing a project. Now, I'm kind of picky, so I only go for roles where it's a lead role or something like that. But I will do student films just to get sharp, to keep my talent sharp. But anyway, let me get back to my focus. Can I start an acting career if I'm in my 40s? A lot of them say, I've always dreamed of getting to acting. I did some acting in high school, but then I went to college and I realized I better get some type of job that's a little bit more secure. I even meet a lot of professionals, successful professionals in careers that took them years to build, who still have that hidden acting bug. And I work with a lot of them too, because you don't have to make it a full-time pursuit of acting. You can still do what I call your day job, even if your day job is a successful career, and act on the side. So I always tell people there are all types of roles available in Hollywood, in major movies and film and television. And if you are the age range and you fit the role and you are believable and you have the training and the discipline and the seriousness to show up, you'd be surprised that even projects that we cast, even our higher level projects that we cast, the amount of actors who just one day say, oh, I'm going to be an actor, and they get a headshot and they make a resume and they send it in. And then they don't even follow through. You know, they don't follow through with the audition. They don't return calls. Even agents that I know who are friends of mine tell me that, you know, they want to bring people in because they have a good look. They have a good, interesting background. They want to bring them in, and people just don't follow through. So follow through is something that's very important. I don't know what that old saying is, but what did they say? 90% of success is just showing up. And it is so true. But again, can I start acting in my 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s? Yes, you can. And there are roles. That's one great thing about acting. I know I'm not going to tell anybody I'm not here, and I never do this. I never give people false hope and tell them that, you know, there's plenty of roles and roles to go around for everyone. That's not true. This is a very competitive business. We as viewers, now I'm taking off my actor and director hat, we as viewers, we see only the successful people. There are so many actors who, some have had success early on in life, maybe as young teens, maybe as older adults. Some have been in lead roles in major films, and that was the end of their career, or they couldn't book more work. So acting is very competitive. You know, we only see the real successful people who work consistently, and you'll notice there are a lot of, obviously, we're talking about the A-list people who everybody can just rattle off names and know who they are. Then you have these television actors who are considered, you know, A-list television actors and the film actors. You have stage actors, but they're always the actors who play all the other supporting roles. They have a term called day player, under 5, and there's thousands of us out here. So there's work, but again, you can pursue your career, but you need to pursue it smart. You need to do certain things that put you ahead of the competition, because it's amazing how many people apply for each individual role. But what I like to say too is, if you do want to take this seriously and you do want to give yourself a chance at a dream that you've had maybe since you were a child, and you're 40 or over, I have some tips for you. So check it out, my link and my information in the description below, and reach out to me. I do one-on-one consulting. I don't have some kind of system or some kind of plan that I'm going to send you, or some kind of marketing gimmick that I'm going to try to sell you. I talk to people one-on-one. I find out where they are, and I meet them where they are. I find out what you need. And I'll tell you straight up if this is something that I feel as a possibility for you. And again, that's only my opinion. But if it's your dream, you know, and if I legitimately feel that I can help you, I work with people one-on-one. So check me out in the description below. And again, remember, you're never too old. You're never too old. Look, and in closing, look up that from years ago. This was in the 80s, but do a search on Google for the woman who had that commercial run. Some of you probably weren't even born. Where's the Beef? She had always wanted to be an actress, and I think she was in her 80s or something like that. And she booked that commercial, and it became something that is still talked about and brought up to this day. But again, if you have a dream and you want to work towards it, if you're 40 or over, no, it's not too late. I'll see you again in the next one. Hi, it's James Adam Tucker again. One of my filmmaking friends, he's been watching my new videos I've been putting up on YouTube. So he gave me a call and he made some very valuable suggestions to me. One of them was to make sure I title my videos so that you guys will know right away what they're about. Seems obvious, but I didn't do it. A title that actually matches the description and focuses on what I'm talking about. So I made those changes. And then also he told me to stay away from my plain brown background that I have upstairs where I do my self-tape auditions. So I'm downstairs in my office. You can see my wife's little setup in the back. Mine is here, but the light's pretty bad, so I couldn't shoot from that direction. But what I want to talk about today, I've got a lot of questions from some young filmmakers. I start trying to give back, as they say, a little bit more. So I've reached out to a community center in my town here in Pasadena, and I met with a couple of young filmmakers, actually 3. One really followed up well. Two of the other ones didn't really follow up that much, but the one that did follow up, he wants to do a feature, or he wants to do a television pilot, and he really hasn't done any shorts yet. So I've been talking to him about doing some very short subjects first, not to try to make any money off of them, but to learn about the full process of filmmaking. I think that's one of the best ways to really learn all the nuts and bolts. Writing, even before writing, coming up with the idea, deciding what your topic is, what you're going to, what message do you want, or story you want to tell, all the preparation that it takes to make something interesting that people want to watch. Nowadays, we have so much technology. Like right now, instead of using my cameras that I have, I decided to grab this because this idea just hit me and shoot this on my phone. And I just have a normal cheap phone, but the iPhones, shooting content on those, it's incredible. It's incredible the technology that's available. So people shoot without even planning these days. And that's why so much stuff doesn't come out the way they want it to. So I'm trying to pass on to him to learn all the preparation, all the steps necessary to make something good. You don't have to worry about trying to sell it when you're new and you're just starting out. You're doing this to hopefully it'll come out good and you'll have something that you can add to your resume or to show a sample of your work. But don't worry about that. You want to get in there and go through the whole nuts and bolts of casting, rehearsing your actors, writing your script, all the pre-production stuff. Like I always tell people, that stuff costs you nothing. Getting ready, getting prepared, and you need to find actors that are willing to rehearse with you. New actors. You're not going to get some veteran actor. The funniest thing, a little tangent I'm going to go off on, the funniest thing is I still look on at the online breakdowns. Again, I'm an actor, longtime director. James Adam Tucker, you can look me up on online, and you can go to my IMDb page. But I still look at what young people are doing. I look at the breakdowns, and sometimes if I see an interesting project that there's a lead role in, I might apply for it. But I tell actors to do that, to keep in shape, to keep practicing. And the same thing with new filmmakers. You're doing these shorts so that you can practice your skills. You can make mistakes. You can learn what doesn't work. You can learn about actors who say, oh yeah, I'll be available. I'll be there when you need me. This is my top priority. And then once you're casting, and maybe once you shot a few days with them, can I come in at 12 and leave at 1? So you need to learn all the things that, you don't learn in film school. Hopefully you went to film school, or you've taken some film school classes, or you've even done some production in high school or in college. And I'm not saying that to say that older people, obviously, like myself, older people can't make films, but you still need to go through that process of starting and just shooting stuff without the pressure of trying to see whether I can sell it or not, because you're going to learn so much, even if you're the only one who watches the final product. But make sure you give the copy to the actors. That's one thing that's terrible, when someone volunteers or works on your project and you don't ever give them a copy of it. That's like something that really sticks in my craw. But again, it is valuable to make short films. Go through all the pre-production, production, and post-production. Make a 5-minute short. Grab some friends together. You don't even have to have professional actors. I mean, that's how I started. I used my family and friends when we got together on family occasions. We would shoot little short subjects. Mostly all of it was comedy, and this was years ago in the early 80s. We would shoot those family films. We actually have some of those online you can find. But again, you want to practice. And that's where making short films comes in to play. It's something that all aspiring filmmakers should do. I even recommend to actors to make short films. Even if you think that it won't come out good, you really can't show it as a sample of your work if you're trying to get acting work. And most of the time you can't. You want to show professional looking stuff if you're trying to represent yourself as an actor, because if a short film is not good, or you can't hear it, or that's when it does matter. You don't want to use that to represent yourself professionally. But again, it's practice. And people in filmmaking and also in the acting business sometimes forget the importance of a short film. So yes, I would say in 2025, Get out there and make some short films. Get some friends together. Get some actors together who need practice, who want to practice. And plan it out, shoot it. And you don't even have to get to the point where you're scripting it. You can improvise. It's especially if you're a filmmaker or a director. You tell, okay, you say this, you say that, you say this, and just have fun. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot. And edit it together and see what works and what doesn't work. And that's how you become more skillful in making projects that you may wish to sell or you may wish to put online to represent yourself. So this is just going to be a short one again, and I'm going to hit you back again with the next one. Thank you. It's James Adam Tucker.
Hi, I'm James Adam Tucker, and for the past 35 years, I've been a director, actor, and editor right here in Hollywood. So today's topic, what I want to focus on is budget-friendly storytelling, writing what you can shoot. I have my list up here so I can stay a little bit more focused. I have a tendency to go down separate trails as I'm talking and a thought jumps into my mind. So today I want to try to refer a little bit more to my list that I have up here so I can stay focused, stay on topic, and give you this information that this video is supposed to focus on. So also too, I want to thank everyone for subscribing and coming in, watching these videos and leaving comments. And I also want to thank people who have been sending me emails, which I really do appreciate. And I try to get to all of them right away. So continue to subscribe and let's get on to the topic. Budget-friendly storytelling, writing what you can shoot. So the first topic I want to talk about is to start with something that you have access to. Now that can be anything. I talked a little bit about this in my previous general video on no budget filmmaking, but I want to focus on the script today. So you want to look at what I would call production value, locations, props, maybe equipment. I had a friend of mine who had access to a farm and a lot of different locations there, a lot of production value equipment that we used in the production. So things like that, you may think about, okay, before you even get to the part of what is my independent micro budget, no budget script going to be about, think of the resources that you have readily available. And those are the resources that you want to use in your script and then start building your story around that. I was speaking with a woman yesterday who has some resources, cabin resources and farming area out here in California. And we were talking about the potential of working on a project together. So at first she didn't understand what I meant when I said a production value location, doing a one location film and thinking of the resources that you have available and then starting to focus in on what your story will be about. And then once she got it, she had so many ideas and so many resources, people resources, location resources, financial resources. And that's what I want you to focus on. What do you have that you can focus on and start that creative process of thinking, what will my script be about? We're not coming from the point of view of a screenwriter who can start on any topic that may, come to his or her mind that they want to write about, because they don't have to worry about getting these astronomical budgets, getting the resources necessary to make it. We're talking about you writing a project that you are going to make yourself. You're going to greenlight it. You don't have to prove to anyone whether this script is worthy of being made into a film. It could be a feature, it could be a short. You are going to greenlight your own project, but you want to make sure that you write what you have access to. Number two, which I always tell people when I talk to them about doing something small in creating a film, short or feature, keep the cast small. You don't want to have 20 or 30 characters because you are also the producer and you're going to have to feed those people. You don't want to have an army of a crew if you can get them to work for you. You don't want to have an army of cast, that you could bring in, because you need to feed those people. You're responsible for them, having a good time on your film shoot. Most of the time they're going to be volunteering and working for you for free. And the least you can do is give them some good meals and enough so that they all can eat. They don't have to bring their own food. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Keep your cast small. And another thing which is important and interesting to me about having a small cast is that the actors who are doing the project, most of the time they're doing it because they want the screen credit. They want to have scenes showing themselves in a real production so they can convince larger producers and directors and also agents that they can handle a real role, that they have the talent to, go forward and make it in this business as an actor. So they're doing it to get samples of their work, because that's from put my actor hat on, from an actor's point of view, that's something when you're starting out that you really need, and it's hard to get. So if they're most of the time working on your independent project, they hope your project succeeds, succeeds and becomes a well-known project or the next indie surprise. But from the beginning, what they're doing it for is for footage for their reel. Let's see, single or limited locations. We just talked about that a little bit at the top. Because what you have access to, it could be a location, it could be props, it could be equipment, or it could be a single, what I call a production value location. Let's think of another one that I had. Oh, I think I mentioned this in some earlier videos, but I'll revisit it again. Years ago, I was doing a film. The film was called Cain and Abel, and the sound person that I had hired, I had a small crew, and I had a budget to pay them and feed them, so everything was going smoothly as an independent film, and I got stuck trying to find an interesting location for one of the key scenes of the main character, where him and his girlfriend met and they were discussing whatever this issue was that was worrying both of them. And he told me, he said, James, I think it was his uncle. My uncle is the manager of the Hilton Hotel in Redondo Beach, I think it was, yes. And it's right off the beach. You can see the water. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So he said, I'll talk to him and see if I can get that location. And he came through. He got us that location. It was a one-day location. He got us that location for the whole day. And we were able to shoot there from morning to night, zero cost, because his uncle was the manager. And he was able to get us that location. And that kind of access is what you're thinking about, is what you're looking for. In the past, there have been films, the whole film took place in one hotel room. So think about making sure your story is one main location or, simple locations that you can get easily. Don't write things you can't get. Let me move forward a little bit on my list here. Let's see if I can do this relatively quickly. Excuse me. Okay, single locations. Oh, another big thing. With those locations, don't write scenes that require extras. Because like I said, if you're trying to keep the cast small, you're trying to keep the crew small, you want to appear as a professional producer who can take care of their cast and crew. So you want to keep it small so you can take care of them. Don't write projects that require extras. There's no real reason for that when you're doing an independent film. If you're doing run and gun style, then you can shoot wherever you want, and you're going to probably most likely have extras walking in the background. And hopefully your camera and equipment and crew are so low profile you won't attract looky-loos who are standing behind the camera looking straight into the camera or interfering with your scene. But don't write in scenes that require extras. You could have day players possibly. And one thing about working with day players on a no budget or a micro budget film is that you want to be, and that's one thing I'm about to say now is something that I prided myself on as I make films. All the films I made in the past and the ones I continue to hope to make that I'm planning right now, I do really detailed scheduling. That way, it kind of comes with experience from shooting and being prepared and knowing what you want. But I do detailed scheduling so that if I do have a day player, I can tell them, okay, look, come in at 3. We're going to shoot with you at 4 and you'll be done by 5. So you don't want day players sitting around all day. I mean, I'm a union actor, so I'm used to it. I go when I'm on a set, I'm happy to stay there all day. It's a union job. It's something I've been working at my whole life. Dedicated my life to this business, and so when I'm on the set, I don't mind sitting around all day. That's part of the business of being a union actor. But when you're doing a micro budget project and someone's volunteering their time, you have to respect that. You can't ask someone to come. It's unethical to ask someone to come in at crew call 6 a.m. and you don't work with them until 11 p.m. And that just happens. Sometimes you get behind schedule, but you don't want to do that. Don't have your day players coming in, at the beginning of the day, and you definitely won't need them until the evening or late afternoon. Try to respect people's time who are helping you out, and even the actors. Sometimes the main actors, they should be aware, and you should make them aware before you shoot that it's going to be long days. We have a 10-day shoot for the whole feature, so I'm going to need a commitment from you to be here these 10 days from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Can you do that? And that's what I always tell producers who are working on independent projects. Talk with your actors. Make them aware of the commitment that you're asking them for. Don't try to surprise people with, oh, well, I didn't know you had to leave so early. Because ultimately, the surprise is going to backfire on you if you need someone and you haven't talked with them and they say, oh, well, I got to work. I can't stay here all day with you. You have to have those conversations up front. You have to have rehearsals. That's another thing that's not even on my list. But if you have a small crew, a small cast, you want to work with those actors in advance to getting on the set. Because on the set, you don't have time to make that, the big call, well, why this person or this man can't handle all this dialogue. He didn't put the time in on his own to memorize it. So that's why you have to have rehearsals way before your shoot date. You have to rehearse a small project like this. Say, for instance, let's just go with the number 4. You have 4 characters. You want to rehearse it like a play. You want to rehearse it, and you want actors who, if you can find them, that actually have stage experience, because that's an ability that a lot of film actors don't have, is to stay in that scene and stay in continuous character mode and deliver it as if it's a live performance and they're in a play. So that's just a little side note. And so let me get back to my list, because I said I was going to go off down that track. Number 5, focus on dialogue-driven drama. There's many good stories out there. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen many good character-driven dramas. They may be big budget. And a lot of times you look at a big budget film who is a character-driven drama, and you'll say, wow, they could have made that for a lot less money, but it was still good. The characters were good. The acting was good. The story, beginning, middle, and end, some surprises in there, real human drama that people can be connected to, and they will connect to your independent film. You don't need tons and tons of money to do that. Again, I'll refer back to the stage. Some of you probably have seen what they call the black box theater, where it's minimal set. If it's a living room, there might be a couch and a coffee table. And then the rest of it, you are supposed to fill in with your imagination. So dialogue driven, keep it sharp. What's the list say? Keep it sharp, keep it meaningful, and let the words do the heavy lifting. You want the actors. The actors still have to bring the story alive, even though it's a lot of dialogue. They still have to be able to deliver it believably and believe what they're saying. They have to appear to believe what they're saying. They have to be believable, because dialogue-driven stories are sometimes difficult for people. Some people shy away from them, where it's just a lot of talking. But that's one way that you can make your independent film and make it very cheap, but still good. Avoid excessive action or effects. Okay, when you're writing, you don't want to write things, again, back to the top. You don't want to write things that you can't do. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of the actor's time. Sometimes you'll watch a very low budget, micro budget action movie, or a very low budget science fiction movie where there are lots of special effects, and they don't have the money for it. So they're cheating it like, this is the 1950s again, and they're doing the Ed Wood style effects and Ed Wood style locations. Now, if you're doing that on purpose, and that's your story, good, yes. But don't try to make things, and one thing that really gets to me when I talk to people who want to work on independent projects, they'll say, office location. Yeah, I have a corner in my basement that we could put in a desk, and we can, no, please. Those days are gone. That used to be able to get with that in the early VHS days, which I'm completely familiar with. You can cheat a lot of stuff, make stuff look, extremely low budget. But now with television and the production values that the general public sees on television at home, they don't have to go to the movie theater. They're watching HBO, they're watching Netflix. The production value level has risen astronomically to what the general public expects. And again, I'm not saying that you can't do that kind of stuff, because you can do it to learn, but don't expect to compete against, independent projects that find the locations that I'm talking about, that write around a specific location so they have production values. Don't expect to, pass your mom's kitchen off as a diner, don't expect to pass your your living room off as the CEO's mansion, and I've seen it all. And it's, I applaud the people's effort for trying, and I never tell people don't try. I tell them all the time, do try, shoot anything, shoot a bad movie if you have to, and just so you can learn. But don't be deflated when you try to sell it and it can't sell. You want to be smart about what you're writing in the very beginning before you even, pull out a camera or hire a crew member or whatever. You want to write this yourself, and you want to spend the time with the paper. You want to spend the time in front of your computer writing a script that you can really, really make. So avoid action and, martial arts and all that kind of stuff that's going to look cheap. It's going to look bad most of the time, unless you have a location. Now, again, on the other hand, unless you have a location of a martial arts studio and you want to shoot there, obviously you're going to have access to some people who know martial arts. So you're shooting on their location. You're shooting in the location. So then, yeah, you can do some action stuff. Action that you can, or for instance, gunplay. Say, for instance, you have a location, your brother-in-law owns a shooting range, and he'll let you shoot there one day. So write what you can really get. Again, back to the beginning of when I started. Let's see, what is my next thing here? I'm going to, this computer's giving me a little, okay, here we go. Okay, so another thing, lighting, especially with evening shots. Plan ahead of where you're going to shoot. If you're going to have a night shot, make sure you have somewhere where you actually have some light so you can see. You don't want to have the shot so grainy that you can't see. Don't buy into the fact where people say, "Oh, this camera's great in low light, so I can shoot in a dark parking lot or a dark alley with no supplemental lighting." No, you have to. If you can afford to have some lighting, if you're doing a night shot, then do it. Keep the shots tight. Keep them confined. Shoot in areas where they have existing light, where there's stores. There might be a park. There might be a car dealership is lit up brightly at night. Plan to shoot places where you have access to light. If you're doing a night shoot, even if you're doing an interior and you're shooting in a building where it's dark, you're going to need some lights. But don't try to light the whole building whole room, gigantic room, if you don't have access to the right amount of lighting. So have that in mind as you're writing. Okay, will I be able to shoot this scene and have lighting? That's something that you want to be aware of also. Also, again, getting close to the end here, write with post-production editing in mind. Let's see, you want to limit the amount of visual special effects, unless you have some special effects and you're buddies with a special effects artist. And that's, again, back to the top of the list, looking at the resources you have available. If you have someone who's great in After Effects and they can do some of these effects that you may want to put into the film and they'll look believably, then you write that in. But don't think that, okay, I'm going to do this scene where, it's a remake of Bewitched and I'm going to have, lightning bolts coming out of her fingers or magical balls appearing, and you don't know anywhere, you don't know anyone who can do that. I'll just hire somebody on Fiverr. No. Write stuff that you can really do. Don't write and think you're gonna, we'll fix it in post, the old saying, So don't do that. And finally, turn limitations into a creative style. A lot of you out here remember the Blair Witch Project, where it took place in the woods at night, and they had minimal lights and they would light their faces with flashlights. That was genius. And like I said, that was when I talk about that project, I think about how that was a lightning strike for those two filmmakers. It doesn't come around, magic in the film business doesn't come around like that every day. But if you turn your limitations into a creative style, then, say for instance, you have a location and you don't have all the proper lighting needed to, quick story, I shot a film, which I'm going to probably end up releasing here on YouTube. We shot it, maybe 10 years ago. The film is edited, but we never got a proper distribution deal. We were offered some, but it wasn't, what we wanted. So I held on to it. So now I have the opportunity to release films on Tubi or even right here on YouTube, which I might use that as one of my test film releases here on YouTube. But anyway, we had access to this old gigantic discotheque here in Los Angeles. It was really popular back in the days of disco, but it's still there. And it opens, it's a community center or something like that now. But we had access to the disco room and everything. It's gigantic. It kind of reminded you of if you all saw pictures of Studio 54. But we didn't have money to light that place correctly, and that was a mistake I made. I had minimal lighting, and I did the best I could, but the footage came out too grainy. But I turned that grainy footage into a style. And what I did was I incorporated that, during the editing, I incorporated the grainy footage as security footage, and someone was monitoring the people in the club, hidden cameras hidden. So I was able to write that into the script, but turn limitations into a creative style. That's another thing that you can think about as you're in the planning stages. And again, we're talking about writing the script, and you're not spending any money right now. It's going to cost you time to do it, but you want to take that time. You want to plan. You want to write something that you can really make. So that's the whole point of this video, making sure that as you're writing your script, you're making something that you can really make. Don't write stuff that you can't do. That's really the bottom line.